Now that I'm an agent, getting a new one should be even easier. I'll keep it in mind as a plan B, in case the repair never finishes. Maybe I can find a replacement. Thinking about the broken memorial pop sock, carefully wrapped in cushioning and stored in my pocket, I turned over possibilities in my head. Meanwhile, Agent Bronze's briefing on Lucky Mart continued.
It's a disaster you can only enter after sundown, so the timing worked out well for the person who called for help.
May I ask about the appearance of the caller?
Agent Bronze answered calmly.
They're two first-year high school students.
Now my conscience will stop me from bailing halfway and running off. Holding back a sigh, I memorized the descriptions and the official report from the time they called in. Noticing my demeanor, Agent Bronze gave me a somewhat sympathetic look and spoke.
Don't worry too much. That explanation about being able to hold out for around half a day applies to high schoolers as well.
My pang of conscience only grew stronger.
However, two agents who went in earlier are currently in a short-term missing status within this disaster. Don't worry, they weren't rescue agents. It was an unfortunate mishap during a routine search for sealing methods.
That's very encouraging news, Agent.
We must remain vigilant during the rescue effort, so refrain from any rash actions. Make sure of it.
Yes, I'll keep that in mind.
The words, "Do you really have to bring a new recruit in a place like that?" rose to my throat, but I swallowed them back. He's well aware I'm a career track new recruit, so there's no way he'll cut me any slack. The cheerful sound of a bike bell didn't reflect my mood at all, but I kept pedaling. Agent Bronze gradually slowed down, letting me take the lead.
We'll be wandering for at least 20 minutes. The person who doesn't know where the building is should go first, so please proceed.
Lucky Mart entry condition. Roam around for over 20 minutes within a 3-kilometer radius of the old Lucky Mart location, searching for the store.
In the freezing cold, I quietly rode my bicycle around the unfamiliar neighborhood. As long as I kept my mind focused on finding the supermarket, looking around the area without a navigation system, lost for about 20 minutes.
I think I've found it.
Then I saw a fairly large 3-story building rising between the dark streetlights. A green, glowing sign for a mart. It wasn't a chain store, but rather a locally branded supermarket you might find in any neighborhood. The moment I blinked again. In front of the supermarket building, I saw the familiar chain store logo. It looked like it hadn't been refurbished in years. Dust clung to some of the letters on the signboard, and some sections weren't even lit. If you look more closely at one of the unlit sections, suddenly a different set of letters than what I'd read at first appeared there.
Try not to dwell on it.
I'm looking at Lucky Mart. Good thing I was trying to find a supermarket in the first place. I parked my bike nearby and approached the supermarket building, which still had its lights on as if it were open. Let's enter Lucky Mart naturally. That made sense. Since Lucky Mart is a massive supermarket chain with branches all over the country, there's no reason to feel nervous unless you consciously think about it. If you see the supermarket after sunset, you enter under the illusion that Lucky Mart is still in operation. The automatic doors slid open smoothly, and I stepped into the brightly lit interior. It was a typical supermarket. It felt somewhat outdated and cheap, but as an old neighborhood mart, it was still mundane enough to be overlooked. First floor. Daily necessities section. Children's toys were stacked on a seasonal promotional display. A song that had long gone out of fashion played softly in the background.
Is this the idol song you like?
No, Mom, that's a rookie group from MS Entertainment.
People passed by while shopping. A family dressed in clothes that were trendy 10 years ago, holding outdated smartphones. Shoppers from the past. Upon entering, the scene appeared just like an ordinary supermarket with people casually shopping. But these were actual shoppers from the past, from when Lucky Mart was still in operation. The shoppers walked past us. Not only were their outfits outdated, but considering how cold it was outside, their light clothing felt out of place. As if, beyond a single doorway, time inside the supermarket was flowing differently.
These are not people caught in the disaster. Ignore them.
The callers. They said they were in what seemed to be the basement level, right?
Caller 1. H-help, please. We came into the supermarket, and something's off. No one can see us, and it feels like we're in an old supermarket. Caller 1. The area? Well, we're around the snack aisle right now. Yeah, and I'm really thirsty.
We're heading to the basement.
I nodded and slowly followed Agent Bronze. This place, which seemed like a perfect recreation of Lucky Mart's past, still looked fine. No, if anything, it might have even felt nostalgic, like stepping into an earlier time. If, of course, you didn't know it was a ghost story. A tight tension coiled in my throat. Every horrific case I'd read in thee was coming back to me. Come to think of it, Lucky Mart had an unusually high number of unexpected twists in the records. Agent Bronze wouldn't have dragged a new recruit into a hardcore-level rescue mission without reason. I swallowed dryly as I stepped onto the escalator and began descending. Then, between the two escalators, moving up and down, I saw something fall, a slip of paper like a receipt. I quickly reached out and grabbed the small receipt-like paper.
You found it already. That's one of the informational leaflets placed by the Bureau.
A leaflet hidden discreetly out of the employee's sight, meant to help civilians who got trapped in this ghost story through no fault of their own. I check the contents of the receipt-like leaflet, take a slow, deep breath. Just reading this already makes me anxious. It's exactly the kind of thing you'd find in a ghost story survival manual. Honestly, before telling people to take deep breaths, they should fix the red font and formatting. But the content itself was exactly as I remembered. Flipping to the back, the instructions remained the same. I'm not sure which version this is, though. Among the listed escape methods, some would become ineffective after enough exploration attempts. As time passed, objects, targets, and layouts would change, altering the situation. Of course, some things never change. At the entrance I came through, there must already be a grotesque ghost standing there by now. And the easiest escape method was to dash out when that ghost wasn't looking. But not everyone's so lucky.
Caller 1. Yes, we saw the escape instructions on the leaflet, but we can't do it. We don't have anything to throw over the ghost's head, and we didn't steal anything. Our arms can't reach.
This is exactly why an agent is needed. Specifically, someone who had useful items for the situation and knew how to use them. So once we confirmed the caller's identity, we had to get out of here before business hours ended. If the store closes, it becomes a real horror escape game. And fortunately for us, we quickly found 2 uniformed high school students near the escalator on B1 by the snack aisle. They were pressed into a corner, crying their eyes out. Those were the callers.
Would you like to speak to them yourself? Stay calm and try. Consider it part of your training.
Agent Bronze looked at me with an oddly warm gaze. I felt a different kind of cold sweat. Carefully, I approached the 2 teens, crouched down in front of them, and met their eyes.
Hello. You're the ones who called for rescue, right?
Both high schoolers fell onto their rears.
You're human, right? You can see us?
Yes, I can see you clearly.
I tried to smile as much as possible.
We came in response to your call. You've been through a lot so far.
They turned on the waterworks like someone opening a faucet. They'd probably been trapped here for about 3 hours since it's winter and it gets dark early. Long enough to be thoroughly freaked out.
Shh, how do we get past that ghost at the entrance? Can we really get out?
Of course, don't worry.
I gestured behind me, tossing all responsibility to Agent Bronze.
The person behind me is a really capable agent. I'm sure we can make it out.
As the 2 students took a better look at my scruffy figure versus the neat appearance of Agent Bronze, they inched toward him. Their survival instincts are kicking in.
So, we're leaving right now?
One of them practically latched onto Agent Bronze like a lifeline. I breathed a sigh of relief and checked the digital watch on my wrist. So if we head for the exit now, as far as I know in the Lucky Mart ghost story, the passage of time in hours, minutes, and seconds corresponds to the real world. Closing times at 11. We still had plenty of time. Enough to craft a plan with our items and make it out safely. And it seemed Agent Bronze was about to explain something similar.
They close at 11, so we've got plenty of time. Let's keep calm.
I instinctively looked up. The Lucky Mart theme song piped in, all jaunty, like some sort of announcement chime.
Hello, dear customers. Thank you for shopping at Lucky Mart today. As previously announced, in celebration of Labor Day, May 1, our store will be closing at 8:30 p.m. Customers still in the store, please follow the employees to the exit.
Lights began going out from the far end of the store, leaving only minimal illumination. Like they were prepping for closing. The escalators ground to a halt.
Repeating the announcement. Please follow the employee's guidance to exit.
I clapped a hand over one of the high schoolers' mouths and ducked down. That outside is not reality. Oh, we're absolutely fucked. A bizarre supermarket, just moments before closing. The lights go out, and the store goes dark. Amidst the lively signature jingle, I could feel the panicked breathing of the high schooler whose mouth I've covered, transmitted as vibrations. My entire body was being taut with tension. And beyond the noise of music and those vibrations in the distance, a faint scraping sound sets my nerves on edge. If there's a metal door somewhere in this supermarket and not glass, that's the sound of employees coming out. Swallowing a rising groan, I turned my head and peeked out from behind the display. Figures in store uniforms start appearing in the dark interior one by one. Like balloons shaped to mimic human forms, these bizarre employees waddled along. The logo of Lucky Mart, imitating Lucky Mart. A clumsy mock-up pinned to their caps and chests flickered briefly under the light, then faded back into the darkness.
Hurry, let's go. They said they're closing.
Someone passed by the liquor section right beside our hiding spot, heading to the checkout. It's 2 or 3 of those past-era shoppers still in the store. Then, one of the employees who entered the liquor corner bumped into them, lightly. The employee's head turned.
Welcome to Lucky Mart. Thank you for shopping with us.
The shoppers felt nothing amiss. They just walked past the employee and went on to the checkout. The high schooler whose mouth I was covering kept breathing raggedly.
Goodbye, dear customer.
The employee figure, head still turned, creaked out of the liquor corner. Then, in that strange, shuffling gait, it headed down the aisle again. Past the snack corner. Right beside the display we were crouching behind. The eerie noise sounded like balloons rubbing against each other. We practically flattened ourselves to the floor, holding our breath. The sound grew distant. One of the high schoolers tapped the hand covering their mouth. He was a tearful mess, but he continued to keep quiet.
You won't scream anymore, right?
When I let go, the student gasped as if he'd been suffocating.
Those weird employees. We can't let them see us, right? Right? The leaflet said.
To survive in Lucky Mart after closing, you have to move around like you're in a survival horror game. But is it really safe dragging these 2 clueless teenagers around? No matter how I look at it, the gear I was given doesn't seem prepared for that scenario. They must have assumed we'd get out during operating hours. Surely the Disaster Management Bureau has some contingency plan in place, but it still felt like there were too many variables. Cold sweat trickled down my chin. Should we just hide out? What's Agent Braun's planning? It looks like maybe we should stay hidden for now. He seems like he's about to take out that employee. Agent Braun's, pistol in hand, was eyeing the departing employee quietly. It looked like he was plotting an escape route, but that employee might be in the way. If Braun were here, I'd have asked him to activate his lights-out ability. No. The fact that this method, which I couldn't even use right now, was the first thing that popped into my head as my top priority. I had to cut that train of thought right there. I racked my brain desperately, trying to sift through my memories as fast as I could. So after closing time, Lucky Mart. I crawled over to Agent Braun's and whispered urgently.
There are still 5 minutes left until closing. Business hours aren't fully over yet.
The doors should still be open.
We can leave right now.
Agent Braun's quickly glanced past the escalator by the checkout. Seeing that the escalator out of the basement floor was still running, he made a quick decision.
Let's move out now.
Then, seizing the high schooler who'd latched onto him, he started moving swiftly. Right. Each of us needed to take one. I turned back to the high schooler whose mouth I'd just been covering. He shook his head in panic.
I'll run on my own. I'm faster than them.
Maybe I should have tried to look a bit more trustworthy. No, this isn't the time to think about that. I started running along with the high schooler, pushing from behind so he wouldn't fall behind. We dashed past the empty checkout counters, barreling through the escalator, where shoppers were still riding up, making a mad dash toward the exit before closing time.
Yeah, I think I missed a step.
Unaware of the crowd, we jostled our way between the shoppers, heading for the exit just before the store closed. And at the first floor entrance, something was standing in front of the doors. It looked like it used to be a cardboard cutout advertisement. The classic, trustworthy grin of a blonde, middle-aged Caucasian man, presumably the famous entrepreneur who founded Lucky Mart, giving a thumbs up. Whoever it was had been forcibly flattened into a shape like a standee, as if a human corpse had been pressed into a two-dimensional form and then reanimated. Though it was smiling, its eyes were still rolling around, tears and saliva dripping. It was looking at us. Its eyes roamed desperately, as if begging for help, or perhaps trying to pass on its torment to someone else, and the standee shook. Fuck! Up ahead I could see Agent Bronze calming the high schooler he was guiding. Ghost was such an all-encompassing word. It lets you encapsulate that kind of monstrosity in one term. Still, we had to block that thing's line of sight. I needed to create a diversion. Holding back a groan, I grabbed the high schooler's shoulder.
You read the leaflet, right? We have to steal something. We each have to do it ourselves.
Before blocking the entrance ghost's view, you have to make it mistake you for just another shopper. Steal one of the items a shopper has already checked out, and keep it on your person. Make sure no fuss arises during the theft.
If you steal something that won't be noticed, it's fine.
I glanced at the entrance. There weren't too many people, but those who'd heard closings was near were finishing up at the registers or leaving. If we just slip out among them, we might block its view without doing anything else. But I wasn't about to take that risk. I immediately pulled out an item I had on me, a spool of fishing line, and a small, red, goldfish-shaped lure on the end.
Dark Exploration Records Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau. An item with a red lure attached to the end of a transparent fishing line. When used, it can draw the attention of supernatural entities categorized as fracture-sanctioned or below. The more powerful and closer to the source the entity is, the weaker and less effective it becomes. Item usage condition: 7th level or higher civil servant of the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau, or someone with special authorization.
The instant we steal something, I'll use this to divert the standee's attention. By taking turns with Agent Bronze, we could buy enough time for both high schoolers to get out. Agent Bronze readied the fishing line and gave me a signal with his eyes. I nodded and turned to the two teenagers.
Listen, kids. They can't see us anyway. So as long as it's not something super noticeable if it goes missing, we'll be fine.
People rarely pay attention if something disappears from a bag or box, especially if they've already bagged it. So we should pick something they're least likely to notice. Something small, like a daily necessity. Something they bought because they needed it, but they're not particularly interested in. Something they won't use or eat right away. I approached a shopper sitting in a chair near the entrance. It'll be easier if they're not moving. Probably waiting for someone, this person had the store's eco-friendly tote bag on their lap, eyes closed for a moment. I quickly examined the tote bag. Then I slid my hand inside and pulled out something stuck to the interior.
There are a few more in there. When I took this one, I almost pulled out the others. So just grab them carefully, okay? Nice and easy.
Swallowing hard, the high schooler reached in with a pale face and succeeded in pulling out the floss I'd placed on top. Clutching the dental floss, the student backed away, visibly flustered. Then both of us turned to look at the one person left. The other high schooler, who'd been sticking close to Agent Bronze, approached with a worried expression, unable to hide his nerves.
It's all right. Stay calm.
Oh, come on. I know that already. Please just be quiet.
He seemed almost panicked. The high school student who yelled at me, perhaps wanting to finish quickly, squeezed his eyes shut and reached out. Then he shoved his hand into the tote bag and snatched the floss. The student pulled his hand out, beaming. Wait, if you yank it out so suddenly. The student's hand brushed against the shopper's cheek. Startled, the shopper who'd been sitting with the tote bag on her lap toppled backward off the chair. The high schooler reacted in shock and reflexively clung to the tote bag.
Mom, are you okay? Wait,
Someone who seemed to be with them ran over, grabbed the tote bag to help the shopper up, then saw the tote bag floating in midair, held by the high schooler, and freaked out. I immediately grabbed the student and yanked him back. The tote bag fell to the floor, spilling its contents everywhere. The bag's owner let out a scream.
There was a person here, but he disappeared.
People around us started to buzz with confusion. Their eyes turned on us.
What are you talking about? You must be mistaken.
No, Dad. Something was wrong with my bag.
There was some boy holding my bag.
Under normal circumstances, shoppers would not notice you. But they can sometimes perceive you if there's physical contact. If communication is possible, there are a few methods you can try to get their help in escaping. Up to that point, it seemed hopeful.
Excuse me, someone help, huh? What day is it today? What's going on? Why am I here, huh?
Still, if a shopper sees you and senses something off or goes into a panic, you must quickly get away from them. The employees are coming. Simultaneously, Agent Bronze and I pushed the high schoolers and started sprinting toward the opposite side of the exit. Because something was waddling out from the escalator, from the far edge of the checkout, from the restrooms. That squeaking, rustling sound, like balloons rubbing together, pursued us from behind like madness, and it was multiplying. Instinctively, we dashed toward a wide and complex area, through the checkout counters and into the store aisles. I glanced at my watch. Closing time was almost here. We had to give up on the exit for now. Before the store finished closing, the shoppers disappeared, and even more employees appeared. We've got to shake them off within 60 seconds. To do that, we had to hide. 4 people is too many. I locked eyes with Agent Bronze. He glanced upward once, nodded, and veered quickly to the side, guiding one of the high schoolers away. I took the other student and moved in the opposite direction. We sprinted so hard we were gasping for breath. The manic squeaking still echoed behind us, but it had definitely diminished. They're going after Agent Bronze's group more. He must have purposely drawn them away. I shoved my worries aside, silently grateful, and ran like a madman. Vacuum cleaners, cosmetics, bowls, kitchenware, bleach. All sorts of display racks repeated endlessly throughout the massive supermarket. Until we ran right into another employee. They chased after us. Each time, I immediately changed direction with the student and kept running. The high schooler was panting raggedly. I could taste metal in my mouth. But in this labyrinthine mart, it felt as if employees and corners were spewing out endlessly. We rounded corner after corner of shelves. We needed somewhere to hide. We had to find a moment when no employee would see us, somewhere we could slip inside without any prep, where 2 people could stay hidden. Then, as we turned another corner,
Electric mixer 50% off.
a mobile display stand. I pushed the high schooler under the giant mobile stand stacked with mixers. Then I squeezed in there as well, and we held our breaths. The high school student trapped in Looky Mart. Jang Min-seo, who had called the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau for rescue, covered his mouth while hiding beneath the mobile display stand. An unsettling noise echoed close by, the sound of something pretending to be an employee moving. Did they see me hide under the display stand? I turned the corner and went straight under. They probably didn't see me. But the sound kept getting closer. Tears wouldn't stop falling. Why did I come here in the first place? He shouldn't have followed his friend. Jang Min-seo cursed his friend in his head over and over, until he realized it was pointless and stopped. Fear had already overtaken him completely. The noise grew louder and louder. It was right next to him. Through the gap beneath the display stand, he could see a pair of feet passing right by. Strange footsteps, ankles twisted unnaturally, dozens of them creaking as they moved. Jang Min-seo held his breath. But unfortunately, that wasn't the end of it. Among the countless strange, shuffling dress shoes passing by, something different caught his eye. A pair of old sneakers. Between the awkwardly waddling employee uniforms, he saw a pair of worn-out sneakers being dragged along.
Please, help me.
A chill ran down Jang Min-seo's spine. Someone had been caught.
I can pay. Money here, I have money, I'm a customer.
Welcome to Looky Mart.
But instead of politely escorting the unfortunate victim outside, the employees were dragging them away.
You cannot purchase goods in this supermarket using Korea's currency. Remember, you do not have the ability to pay. The moment this fact is exposed, the employees no longer see you as a customer. In most recorded cases, those discovered were repurposed as store supplies.
Jang Min-seo's body locked up. Slowly, he looked up. The mobile display stand he was hiding under was shaking. The employees had surrounded it. The sound of a blender filled the air.
Isn't this a wonderful product?
Jang Min-seo realized. They were imitating a promotional demonstration, grinding a victim alive in a blender, turning them into store supplies. Jang Min-seo covered his mouth. Luckily, or maybe unluckily, the screams and blender noise were loud enough to drown out his muffled gasps.
Ah! Ah!
Thank you for shopping with us, dear customer. Isn't this a wonderful product? Welcome to Looky Mart.
Pleading, screaming, the blender. More screaming, employees greeting customers. Screaming, the blender again. He couldn't take it, he was about to scream. He had to get out of here. Where was the exit? Someone, please. Tell me where to. Someone grabbed his shoulder. The trembling grip pressed him further under the display stand, the one who had come in response to his rescue call. Jang Min-seo's breathing slowly returned to normal. Even in the midst of the overwhelming noise that could drive someone insane or unconscious, he clung to the warmth of that grip and endured what felt like eternity. The sounds of the blender continued, the employee's cheerful sales pitch repeated over and over, but at some point, the screaming stopped. The space above them fell silent. The promotion had ended. The sound gradually faded away. The feet that had been visible through the gaps in the display stand, the sneakers that had been dragged along, even their shadows had disappeared. The agent checked outside, then spoke. Hearing that, Jang Min-seo let out a shuddering breath and finally started sobbing again. The bespectacled agent beside him watched with a complicated expression. And at that moment, Kim Soleum realized something. He and the one high schooler he had to rescue were now alone. Splitting up was the right call. But damn, this was terrifying. The sound of a human being ground alive. He had a feeling it would be waiting for him in his nightmares. Kim Soleum's back was already drenched in cold sweat. I nearly passed out. But he couldn't show it. Not when a 15-year-old kid, still paralyzed with fear, was clinging to him.
And what do we do now?
Kim Soleum spoke to the high schooler as gently as possible. At some point, he had started speaking informally, but there was no time to worry about that. Right now, it was better to act like a familiar, reassuring adult. Sergeant J actually played a much bigger role in the Sangun Nim ghost story than I thought. But as he watched the high schooler still trembling with fear, he decided to speak again.
Want to hear a secret?
Though still crying and struggling to steady his breathing, the word secret made the student instinctively lift his head. And the agent really did share a secret.
Actually, I'm the agent who knows the most about this supermarket.
But rather than being reassured, the high schooler felt even more doubtful. That's obviously a lie. Everything about him screamed rookie. Glasses, messy hair, the way he seemed to chew on his words. Compared to the sharp, competent-looking agent from earlier, he looked more like a bumbling sidekick to a superhero. Still, the agent continued speaking, determined to calm him down.
I've researched this place a lot. I know what's dangerous and what isn't. Even things the other agent doesn't know. I know them all.
Eyes meeting from beneath his glasses, instead of the hesitant, unsure look Jang Min-seo was expecting. For just a moment, there was a sharp, calculated gaze. It all sounded completely true.